One, two, three, and we are recording. Guys, what is up? Welcome to another video. So I wanted to record a quick video because there's an app which I wanted to build for myself. Like it's a really simple app. It would probably take me about half an hour to code up. And I thought, since I'm gonna do this for myself anyway, why don't I just record myself doing it? Maybe you guys can learn something. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. So let me tell you quickly about what the app is. Again, it's going to be a super simple thing. It'll probably take me about 30 minutes to code up. It might take me a bit longer because I'm recording. I have to explain things, but yeah, let's see how it goes. And what this app is going to do is, so quick background to this. So in the new year, in 2023, I decided, or I got more serious about certain things I want to do. For example, studying, reading, just the usual New Year's resolutions that people have. And one of the things I wanted to do this year, which I didn't do so well previous years, was keep track of how many hours I'm doing on this stuff, just so I can kind of see my progress. So I can make sure that I'm putting in the hours that would get me the results that I want to get. And to do that, I'm going to build an app in the future which will track everything, but that's out of the scope of this video here. But fine. As a first step, I have a quick Google Docs which I'm using, which I use to track how many hours every day I do, or studying, or whatever else. And all I want is a super simple tool which will add up the different times and just give me the total for the week, for the month, and so on. And I really mean super simple. It's not going to be integrated with Google Docs. I just want an app where I can go on, put on some different times, and it's just going to give me the total, and I can copy that value and do all of that. Okay, and you might be thinking of it with such a super simple app, there must be some kind of, it must exist already. There's no way you're the first person who has this need. And you are correct, it does exist already. I Googled this, several came up, but these are disgusting. They're disgusting. I'm sorry, like whoever coded this up, if you are someone who coded up one of these apps, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. We could do much better. We could do much better than this. I mean, let me show you some of these things, right? So all I want to do is add a few times. How about this one? Days, hours, minutes. Yeah, simple enough, except I only have two options, right? What if I want 5? One for each weekday. Can't use it. How about this other one? It's better, I have more, but I have to keep hitting these tabs, and it's like, it's ugly, it's ugly. I don't like this. I do not like this at all. There's this other one. I mean, again, it's... Should I use this thing? Really? I mean, come on. We can do a lot better than this. It's 2023. We have no reason to limit ourselves to be using these ugly apps. So yeah, we are not going to do that. We're gonna record our own instead. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna, first of all, minimize my own video here. I know you guys come here to see my beautiful face, but it doesn't need to take up so much of the screen. Okay, so you can see I have a starting Flutter app. I've called it time calculator, but you guys can call it anything you like. It really doesn't make a difference. And I have the app running over here on the side, just so you can see it's the starting app. Okay, so what am I going to do? First of all, I'm going to delete all of this. I don't need it. And I'm also going to delete the comments over here. By the way, guys, I haven't mentioned I'm a little bit sick, so if I start coughing or something like that, you'll know why. But anyway, so I'm creating a new folder called screens, new file inside of this, which will be homepage, home screen, in fact, dot. If I call the folder screens, I should call this screens, right? I want it to be nice and just the same. I'm going to call this home screen. My typing is atrocious. Over here, consumer widget. So this is because I have code snippets. I normally use Riverpod as my state management. So I have code snippets which replace my stateless widgets with consumer widgets, and my stateful widgets with consumer stateful widgets. But we're not going to use that in this app. This app is going to be quite small, so I do not need any state management. So then I'm going to get rid of this and pass in my newly created home screen just like that. I'm gonna change the theme data because I like dark themes. So I'm gonna make this dark dot copy with, and let's check. Bum 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 bum. Does it take a color scheme? It does take a color scheme. I'm not going to worry about the color scheme now. We'll do that in a second. Let's go ahead and refresh this just so we can see what it looks like with the empty home screen. I thought since it was dark it would change the scaffold color, but never mind. That's because it doesn't have a scaffold. Okay, then I'm gonna go to show debug mode banner false because I don't want to see that ugly thing over there. I'm gonna get rid of this thing. This is just a quick banner telling me that my cause is off, and that's because, you know, I need it for coding. Okay, so now that we have this, we're gonna go back here, turn this into a scaffold, wrap the scaffold with a safe area. There we go. Give this a body. Body will have a column. Column will have children. Children, we're going to give this a sized box of child. No, I don't need a child. I need a width, height. I'll give it a height of media queried of context dot size dot height. Let's try 0.1. Basically, I don't want the app to be ugly, right? And one of the things that I hate in an app is when there's just so much going on. You know, it's just all these walls of text. When I just want to do a simple thing, I want the app to make it really simple for me to do the thing I want to do. I don't want all this noise everywhere. So that's how I'm going to style my app here. Now I'm going to create a container just so we can see how big the space is, so we can decide if that's big enough or not. I'm gonna give this a color, color's the blue, why not? Give this a height of 25, for example, and a width of double dot infinity. Refresh this, see what it looks like. So this is how big the space is. I think that's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Why not? Gonna go ahead and delete this. I'm gonna wrap my column into a safe area in a single child scroll view. Single child scroll view, which means I need to make my column main axis size dot min. The reason I have to do this is because if you wrap your column in a single child scroll view, well, what that column does by default is it takes the maximum amount of space, but the single child scroll view is gonna try to change itself to match the size of its child. But if the column is infinite, then the scrolling will just get messed up. You're going to get an error. So instead we have to make this min for now. Okay, so the next thing I want is I want the total up top, and then below the total I want to have several text fields which will, you know, allow us to enter the different times we have. So I'm going to go ahead and use selectable text. If you guys haven't seen selectable text before, all this is, it's a text field which you can click on and select which I'm going to want so I can copy paste my values. I'm going to change this to a stateful widget, so that's a control click or command dot on Mac. I'm going to give this an string total, and for now I'm gonna make it start as an empty string. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start it as, no, I'm going to leave it as an empty string for now. You'll see why in a second. And let me see, what do I want? One thing I do want to do, right, in fact I'll do it here. I'm going to give this a width of double dot infinity. The reason I'm doing this is because I want the column to take the maximum amount of space, length, width-wise or whatever. And the reason I'm doing it this way rather than giving it a cross alignment of stretch is because my cross alignment of stretch is going to stretch all of the children, which will sometimes give me results that I don't really want. So I just prefer doing it this way. I don't know how other more capable developers do it, but I do it this way. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna give it a style of theme, of context, text theme. How about headline, medium? Let's see how that looks. And for now, let's say is empty. Then I'm gonna give it an oo.oo. Else we're gonna give it a total. There we go. Refresh this, and we should see 00.00 up top there. That is not big enough, so I'm going to give this a headline of large. In fact, I'm going to give it display of small. Refresh it, see how it looks. Still too small. Display medium. That's kind of the primary thing of the app, right? So I want it to be like big. Wow, display large. We're going through a lot of these really quickly, aren't we? Yeah, there we go. I think display large is finally big enough. And there you go, you can see that we can select this unlike a regular text field. Give this a height, let's say 25. And then what am I gonna do next? Right, watch this. I'm going to, one of the things I was saying about UX UI is we don't know how many text fields people want at the beginning, right? But at the same time, it looks ugly if you have like 100. It's not flexible if you have 2. And at the same time, I don't want the user to have to go and manually click a plus button either to add more text fields, because that's just, it's ugly. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a list here of, what I should do is create a different data structure which has a focus node and a text editing controller. A small app though, so I won't bother. So let's say text editing controller, controllers equals, and we'll start this as, we'll leave like this actually. We'll leave like this for the beginning, and then we'll say list focus node is focus nodes. Create an empty list here. Then I'm going to have my init state, and in my init state what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for int I equals I less than 3, I plus plus, and I'm just going to populate these with text editing controller. There we go, and focus nodes to add focus node. There we go. So all I've done here is populated my controllers and focus nodes with 3 of each object. And then if we go back here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called build text fields. I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second. So this is going to return a list of widgets. And I'm going to say list widgets. I just call it L because I am lazy. And I misspelled widgets. Widgets, there we go. And then we'll say for int I equals 0, I less than text, then controllers dot length I plus plus, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text field per controller, and you'll see towards the end how we're going to add more. And we are making this dynamic, so we can add more text fields without us doing anything special. Another thing I'm going to do here actually, so after this I'm going to create a future.microtask in which I'm going to say focus nodes dot first dot request focus. Why am I doing a microtask? Because I feel like it. Sometimes it can crash if the focus node isn't attached to something when we try to request focus. Sometimes it's fine, but by doing a future.microtask, all I'm doing is I'm ensuring that by the time that focus node requests focus, everything else has already been built, just to avoid any possible issues. But again, oftentimes you won't have issues, so you can play around with these kind of things. Okay, so we're going to say l.add, and what we're going to add here, we're going to add what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a stateless widget called text field. Stateless widget, which is going to take a final text editing controller, and it's going to take a final focus node, and we're going to pass in these two arguments, so required this dot controller, required this dot focus node. The reason I'm creating a different widget over here is just so that when I make any change to the controller or focus node, it's going to go ahead and change all of them at the same time, rather than me having to go in and manually do that. Plus, it's just going to look nicer in this function if I have it like this. So I'm going to create, I'm going to add a text field here, and it's going to have a controller of controllers.i and a focus node of focus nodes.i, just like that. And then in this text field, currently this doesn't really do anything. I'm going to change this to first a padding, give this a padding of const edge insets dot symmetric, let's say vertical, let's try 10, but we might end up changing this in the future. Then I'm going to give this a child of text field, and it's also going to need a on submit, but we'll get to that later. And going to give this a controller of controller. Going to give this a focus node of focus node. Going to give this a input decoration. That's the one. I am going to create a new file here, new folder, misc, new file, default input decoration dot impm. That's for import material. Final default input decoration equals, and let's double check what this takes. This takes a input decoration. There we go. And I personally don't like the underline input, which is the default for Flutter. Instead, I like using the complete box. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a, I forget the, is it border? It is border. I think it's outline input border. That's the one. I'm better at this than I think. Border sign, border radius. Let's go ahead and let's check what this looks like first, and then we can decide. If we want to change it at all. So I'll give this default input decoration. That is what I called it, right? Yeah. Why is it not coming up? There we go. And let's just see what it looks like this first. I'm not returning the list yet, so return L here. And this, by the way, is why I use the three dots. What the three dots does is it takes some kind of list, some kind of iterable asset, map, anything like this, and it spreads it out into a different objects of the same type. So in this case, my column has children. Children, of course, is a list which has different widgets. And what I'm doing is I'm putting this function at the end, and that three dots says, okay, take all of the different items in this list and put them each at the end of the parent list, as it were. So it's as if I have these three text fields at the end of here, pam, 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 rather than having the build text fields. And that's the same reason why here I'm using a function rather than a widget, because I want it to be part of this larger list. Okay, so go ahead and do that. How does that look? Ugly. Ugly. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to, I decided instead of this, I'm going to have a, let me think. So the problem is my text fields are too big. right? I want it to be much smaller. So I want to wrap that in, I want to basically give it some spacing, but I only want that to affect those, not the rest. So actually, I'm going to change this to, do I want to? Yes, I do want to. So we can forget about this for now. Let's say children, and then I'm going to change this just to a widget, and I guess you guys can see where I'm going with this. Children, change this to children, which of course means wherever I use this, I just get rid of this, which means at this point I could just use a widget. I no longer need to use a function, but I already have this, so I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap my children in. I wanted to wrap this in a widget sized box, and in fact I'm going to do it in the other place, because over here I have the context and I don't want to pass it into my function. I'm going to wrap this into a sized box and give this a width of min. Go ahead and import that. Import dot.math. Let's say 500, or media query of context dot size dot width times 0.9. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay. So that looks better, right? That looks a lot better already. Let's try 9.5. See if that looks better. In fact, it seems that is 500, so my 9 on 9.5 is not gonna change it. Let's change this to 300 just so I can see how big 0.9 is. Oh, I definitely meant. Did I mean max or min? I definitely meant min, right? So let's change this to 800, so I can see how big 0.9 is. Yeah, I'd say that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this. 500 I think is a good default. So it's 500 if this is nice and big. That I haven't refreshed it since it was 800. I think that's decent. There we go. Just want to check it's not focusing the first one. We'll look into why that is in a second. Have it passed in the focus node? I have. Controller, default input, decoration, there we go. I'm going to give this a copy with, and I'm going to give this a filled true and a fill color. I want the fill color to be a little bit lighter than this, so I'm going to give it colors.grade or shade. Let's try shade 50, see how that looks. We could even use white. We'll see in a second. It's a little bit too bright for my liking, so let's give this a shade. Let's try 300, let's try 400 in fact. See how it is. $400 is a bit ugly. And not just a bit, it's actually really ugly. Let's try 200. Okay, so this is fine, I have decided. Okay, so 10 is too big, let's change to 5. I think that looks, does it look nicer, or does it look less nice? Okay, that's fine. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say on submit. For now I'll leave this empty. final function string on submit, because I want this to do something on submit, obviously. On submit, passing on submit over there, that's fine. I'm still not 100% happy with how this looks because the text is white. Does anyone remember how to change the text style? Suffix style. Do I give this a text style? Text input type, style. Okay, let's give this a style of theme of context.text theme dot body text body medium the copy with, and copy it with colors colors dot gray dot shade 800. Should be nicer. And I have an error somewhere, probably because I haven't required this dot on submit. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Now we can see that. This is a bit too small though. I'm going to change this to let's say headline small. Do you think? Let's try headline small and see if we like it or not, and then we'll decide if we want to change it or not. So how does this look? It's nicer, right? It's a lot nicer like this. Basically what I'm going to end up doing is something like this, and then when we click enter, we want it to go ahead and update the total as well as go to the next focus node. Give me a second, I'm just thinking. So one of the things I just realized is that someone could hit enter over here, right? I was thinking what I want to do is that if someone gets to the end, like someone hits enter over here, we go to the next line. Someone hits enter over here on the second one, it's going to automatically add a new text field towards the end of the list. But then I have to keep track of the index of the currently focus node, which is doable, but it's a bit more complicated than what I was looking to create. So I'm just thinking real quick if there's an easier way of doing this. I don't know. For now, let's just do the easier parts and then worry about the next part when we get them. So as on submit, what I'm going to do is what I could do is just pass in the index. That's probably the easiest way to do that, right? Final int index over here, required this dot index. This index over here is going to be over here. It's going to be the value of I. So by doing this, I always know where I am, and by doing that, I can easily focus the next focus node. So on submitted, I'm going to say I don't need the value over here. The first thing I want to do is, so there's two things I want to do. I want to update the total, and then I want to create a focus node and controller if I need to. And if I don't need to do that, then just go ahead and focus the next focus node. So let's start with the simple thing, and let's say if I less than controllers dot length -1, controllers dot length -1. Then we can say focus node I plus 1 dot request focus, right? So all this is going to do is when you hit enter, it's going to go ahead and take it to the next line like that. How nice is that? And of course, the reason we say controllers that like -1 is because if we didn't have this, it would end up erroring out because we're trying to go to a focus node which doesn't exist. So that would be like boom, error, you know, range error, index out of range, blah, 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 blah. We knew that was going to happen. We're very smart. We knew that was going to happen, which is why we put -1 over there. Quick thinking on our part. Good job, us. Okay, so that's the simple case. Now let's say if I equals controllers dot length -1. This is going to trigger if we're on the final focus node, and I'll just demonstrate that real quick. Right, so doesn't trigger, boom, triggers, right? So in this case, what we want to do is we want to create the new focus node. So we're going to say controllers.add text editing controller, and then we're going to say focus nodes.add focus node. Then we're going to have to set state. The reason we're setting state is to actually make the new text field appear over there. And for now, I'm going to leave it like this, but it's actually not the right thing, and you guys will see why in a second. So type something, and boom. Oh, never mind, it works. I was thinking we might get an error by doing this. Again, it's the same thing I said when I put this inside a future.microtask. Sometimes if you try to do something like request focus of something that doesn't yet exist, that hasn't been printed on the screen, it can sometimes error out, which is why I was going to put it inside a future.microtask, but sometimes it's fine. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Okay, so now we've got that behavior that we want. We're going to have however many text fields we need. We're not going to have to worry about that, and it also looks much nicer. And also keep in mind that we can scroll on this. I think there's nothing to scroll yet, but if we get a long enough page, it will start scrolling as well. So what do we want to do next? The next thing we want to do is to actually update that time. So let's think about how we can do it. First of all, we shouldn't be accepting just any value, right? We shouldn't be letting users just type in like ASDF like I've been doing, because that doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and give this an onChanged. And this will be a final function string onChanged. Over here, require this dot onChanged. How nice is that? It's very nice. onChanged. And all I'm going to do here is just not let users type in dumb stuff, right? That's all it's going to do over here. I'm going to go ahead and find this over here. So we're going to say if is numeric s, or s equals that, then we're going to accept it, and if not, else don't accept it. Nice and easy. So let's go ahead and create this as numeric function, which doesn't yet exist. Misc here is numeric dot. We're going to go ahead and create bool is numeric string s, and we're going to say if s.length equals 1, return how about if s dot is empty? So an empty string, I'm actually going to say it is numeric because I don't have anything to complain about, right? Return true. S dot length equals 1. I'm going to return s dot compare to 0. Let me think. S greater or equal to 0. Can I do that? Is it not? So it is compared to 0. So this is going to return if it's greater. 0, but that's going to be greater or equal to 0. And s dot compared to 9 less than or equal to 0. Okay, so what this is doing is this compare to function is going to return 0 if they're the same. It's going to return 1 if s is bigger than the value, and it's going to return -1 if s is below the value. So if s alphabetically is below 0, that it's not going to be a numeric value. So I want that to fail. If it's bigger than 9 alphabetically, then same thing. So that should be correct. Greater or equal, so I'm expecting 1 or 0 here. And here I'm expecting it to be lower, so that's a -1 or a 0. There we go. And then return s dot, let's say, is numeric. Is numeric s dot substring. Can I just do? I'm not sure if I can do this in Dart. I always forget. Yeah, I can. And is numeric s dot substring 1, like that. And substring, as you can see, takes a start and an optional end. So what that means is if I don't have the end value specified, it's going to start wherever I say, and it's just going to go till the end, which is what I want. So all it's going to do is if it's empty, it's going to say it's true. If there's a single value, it's going to go ahead and tell me if that value is numeric. And if there's multiple digits, it's going to look at that first digit, tell me if that's numeric, and then it's going to go ahead and recursively call itself for the rest of the string. You could have also done this with a loop. I could have also said bool is numeric, loop string s, and then we could say for int I equals 0, and so on, and do the same basic thing. But recursion is cool. Sorry, that's the only reason I have for using it. There's no real. It is slightly more performance actually, but it's not a big difference. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, so that's fine. We have my is numeric, and what does it mean to accept the value? Well, if we accept the value, that basically means we're not doing anything, right? If we accept the value, then it's fine as it is. We're actually looking for the opposite if we don't want to accept the value. So we're just gonna wrap this like this, and then we're gonna do something, whatever this something is, and we're gonna return because we don't want to run the rest of the function. And what is that do something? So that do something basically means to not accept the last value entered, right? And there's a way to do that, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's something like, so let's get the controller, final controller equals controllers I. There we go. It's going to be something like controller dot select controller dot text dot controller dot selection. Ooh, I forget what it is. I should really look this up. I have no idea. So I'm going to go ahead to chat GPT and ask you a quick question because I can't remember how to do something. just going to say, how do you remove the final character in a Flutter text controller? Let's see what it has to tell me. I don't really like what it's telling me. Whatever, I could do this. So one thing you could do is you could just say controller.text equals controller.text.substring text dot controller.text dot length -1. So this is just going to remove the final digits, and let's see what that looks like. Let's see if that's usable. Right. I thought so. Interesting that doesn't... Why is it not accepting this character? So if it's numeric, if it's not numeric, or it's not I see. The reason is because I'm checking to see if the string is equal to the colon, not if it contains the colon. So what I actually need to do is change my isNumeric function to accept the colon. So I don't want to change this just because it feels wrong to me. I would rather create or colon like that. Which means here or s equals like that. Or special character. Let's make this a little bit required string char like that. Or s equals char 0, just in case somebody passes in more than 1. Or we could say or special chars, acceptable chars here, and then we could say chars dot contains s like that. So now what's going to happen is that if we pass in a series of symbols or anything else, letters, it could be anything really, to this function, it's gonna return whether it's numeric or if it's one of those special characters. So then I can copy this, go to home screen, and I can change this. Controller.text. And then chars is gonna be just that. We're still not doing it. And also this is crashing, as I figured. When box not laid out. Let's restart this again. Right. So that's because of this. Of that focus node, right? See, I told you guys. I'm gonna change this to a future.delayed and give it a future.microtask just doesn't wait at all, whereas a future.delayed is gonna wait however much time you ask it to. I'm gonna give it milliseconds of 50. which should be enough to circumvent the error. Yeah, and now we can see, it's not typing here. Because I'm using SDF and I forgot that I'm only accepting numbers now. It's still not accepting this though, which is interesting. The reason is because I didn't update this chars like that. That's already been 45 minutes. I'm surprised. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so now it's a bit better. There's still a slight problem in that, watch what happens when I type A, right? Boom, it goes to the bottom, it goes to the beginning, and then I don't realize that and I type in A and it's deleting the rest. So there is a way to move the cursor to the end. Again, I don't remember how to do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and ask ChatGPT. So how do you move the cursor to the end in Flutter? By the way, this is what ChatGPT is really good for, in my opinion. It's just answering these quick questions. You know, things which in the past you would have Googled. Now you can just get Chat to do it for you, and normally it's much faster. And it has to be right most of the time. It's not always right, but it's right more often than not. So what I've just copy pasted that. So it's a control.selection, text selection to prompt position, text position offset, control.text.length. And all this is doing is it's selecting the very end, right? But it's not selecting any characters. It's only selecting the very end. And by doing that, it's forcing the cursor to move to the end. So let's try again. A, C. Now, when I mash my keyboard, it doesn't do anything. It looks like it doesn't do anything, but what it's actually doing is it's deleting the final character and it's moved that cursor to the end. So we're avoiding the issues we had at the beginning. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, right, is update that total. And this was one of the things that's complaining about with all of the other apps, is that you have to manually tell it where the hours are and where the minutes are. And I just feel like most of us are going to use it the same way, right? If you type in 00, well, the first 0 is going to be the hours, the second 0 is going to be minutes. If you type in 000, then that third one is going to be seconds, right? I just feel like computers should be smart enough to figure that out for us. So, let's think what we're doing. So we're going to have to go back to the onSubmit, and inside the onSubmit, what we're going to do is we're going to turn whatever the user types in into a time and add that to the total. So I'm going to change the total to a duration, total duration. Inside init state, we can go this total duration equals duration second 0. Right, so this is an empty duration. Give this a const, because if we don't, our IDE will yell at us. So we have this, all good, all good, all good. I don't want to set state more often than I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a function which updates total duration, right? Thinking what the most efficient way of doing this. So when I update the total duration, I'm gonna need to set state. So I think I want to do that here. And then return. And then over here. We'll move this to the end, why not? So the reason I'm putting this return here is to, yeah, I didn't want to do that, did I? Probably just do it like this, can't I? No, because then this is going to crash. Should I do it the other way around? Request focus first? No. I need to set states inside here so that the focus node exists when I'm requesting the focus. So I guess it's just like that. But that seems silly, right? It's just that, isn't it? So we're setting states here, and then, yeah, this is correct. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and create a void update total duration. What this is going to do, this is going to iterate through each text controller and add it to the duration. So let's say total duration, duration equals 0. And then let's say, so we're resetting it. Then we're going to say for controllers, the for each. This might yell at me if I do this. Yeah. Flutter doesn't like when we do this. Apparently it's bad style. It prefers if we loop over them. For int I equals 0, I less than controllers dot length I plus plus, just like that. Then I'm going to say final text equals controller I controllers I dot text. Then we're going to say final split equals text dot split, like this. Then we're going to say if split dot length greater or equal to. Do we want to support, how do we want it to behave if a user does something weird? Like if they have 00.00. So in my mind, this is hours, minutes, seconds. What if they want to do like this? Days, hours, minutes, seconds, right? I guess we should, I don't want to support this. I don't want to support this. I just want to leave it like this. It's my app, so I decide how it works. Okay, so what we're going to do is if they do something like this, I'm just going to ignore anything after this because it is my app and I decide how it works. That is why. So we're going to say if split.length greater or equal to 3. And let's just do a quick sanity check actually. Let's say let's do a quick print split dot length. So what this is going to do, this is going to take our text, split it where we had that symbol, and give us the different sides of it. So this should be length of 1. This should be length of 2. And this should be length of 3, and it is correct. We're just not. It's giving us these empty ones. So split or length greater or equal to 3. That means we have the seconds, which means final hours equals int dot parse. We should wrap this one in a try just in case something goes wrong, but it's not necessary. Split 0, final minute equals int dot parse split 1, and final seconds equals int dot parse split 2. Then we're going to say else. It's not really necessary though, is it? Right? We don't need to do that. We could just say final hours equals int dot parse split, and then we could say if split dot length greater than greater than 0, that means we have minutes. So then we could say it's greater than 1, in fact, because it's always going to be 1 at least. Then we could say final. Right, it's also not good because we're defining the variable here. So instead we're going to say late. I don't need that for hours. Late final minutes. Late final int seconds, like that. If split.length greater than 1, minutes equals, in fact I'd rather do that. I would like it to be nullable. Split.length equals minutes in dot pass split 1, and then if split.length greater than 2, then seconds equals int dot pass split dot 2, like that. There we go. So we don't need this anymore. I'm not sure if this is nicer or less nice. And then we're going to say duration dot total duration dot add. There should be an add or something like it. How do you add two durations? I'll ask chat. How to add two durations in Flutter. I thought that was like a dot add. I can just use plus. Okay. I didn't know that. Plus equals duration. That's maybe it's easier if I do minutes equals split dot length greater than 1 int don't pass split 1, otherwise it's 0. Yeah, I think that's the best way of doing it. Final seconds equals split dot length. I think this is nicer. Because I do want those zeros. Duration, and then we're going to say hours, minutes, seconds, right? So that all that's going to do is that's going to iterate through the different text fields and give us that total. And then at the end, we're going to set date total equals total duration greater or equal to, can I do this with duration 0? Total duration dot in seconds greater than 0. Then we're going to say total duration dot to string, see how that looks, and if not, we're going to return a 0, 0 like that. Right, so let's try to see how that looks. And we'll say 0, 0, 10 minutes, and it crashed. Why is it crashed? Format exception. So that means it doesn't like int.parse 0, 0. I guess that's why. Let's try doing let's try checking this. That's why, right? Yeah. But if I did this, let's check. Doesn't like this either. Exception. Let's do a quick sanity check. So in this case, split 0 is split 0. Try that again. There's one, right? Crashed. It's crashing on the next one. So what we need to say is we only need to process it if it's non-empty. So what's happening is that on the second and third one, it's crashing because I'm passing it an empty string. So let's say split is not empty, and if it is, we're going to give it a 0, and then that should be okay. Yeah, so that's acceptable. Let's try giving it 0, 0 like this. That's acceptable. It likes that. Like this. And it likes that as well. Okay. So let's add this back in, except keep in mind that this could give us an error, so we're going to have to add another check, which is going to make this quite dot length greater than 0 and split dot 1 dot is not empty. We can do that, and the reason this is safe to do is because the and operator, so if the first part of and is false, then it's never going to evaluate the second part. So it's just going to go ahead and evaluate the false condition. It's not going to evaluate the second half of this. So this is actually safe. The reason I'm saying it might not be safe is because if the length was not greater than 1, then this can't be evaluated because split 1 doesn't exist at this point. But that's not something we need to worry about. So then we could say split.2.is not empty, like that. Split, why is this giving me an error? Because I put this in the wrong place. There we go. Doesn't that look nice? And I can probably get rid of this. So now we should be able to do something like that. And let's say 2, 3, 9. Right, so that works, right? You guys can see that this is doing what I want it to do. Now, there's a question of, does this, do I want it to be able to do this? Like, do I want it to just take any, just take 3 rather than 0, 3 or 3, 0? And I do, because, well, there's no reason not to. I'm going to assume if the user types in this, they mean 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 9 seconds. I could also be more strict and say if it's not this, then it's going to fail, but I don't see the need to do that. So okay, there's that. And now, so this is the only thing. So the duration.toString. Is there a way to make it look nicer? No, it always does that. So let me see if there's a different to. It's always going to be the same one, isn't it? I could make an extension, but I don't particularly want to do that. So instead, I'm going to just do this myself. Total duration. Get duration string. I'm just going to leave it like that. And actually, I don't need to pass it in anything because this is a stateful widget, so it does have access to that variable total duration from anywhere. So we'll say total duration, get duration string. I'm going to say if total duration dot in hours greater than 0, then return We have to make this look nice, don't we? That's going to be annoying. Okay, so we're going to say hours, total duration greater than 9, less than 10. Then in hours, then we're going to return 0, else we're going to return nothing, and then total duration dot in hours. So all this is doing is returning, I'm going to say string s equals like that, and say s equals like that, then s plus equals, so what this is saying is that if it's less than 10, and in other words, if it's 9, 8, something like that, add 0 in front of it, so it's going to say 0, 9, 0, 8, 0, 7, and so on. And if it doesn't have that, then just go ahead and say the duration by itself. Then we're going to say s plus equals, and we're going to add the minutes over here, total duration dot, God, I forgot how to do this, because I don't want it in minutes, I just want the minutes. I'm going to have to ask chat again. Do I have to do a modulo 60? I might have to. Just minutes from. Yeah, so in minutes is going to give me that variable, including the hours and minutes. So I'm going to say in minutes, final min minutes equals total duration dot in minutes, and then I'm going to do a modulo 60, and then I'm going to say if minutes less than 10, go ahead and add that 0, otherwise don't add anything, and then give me the minutes. And I'm going to say final seconds equals total, and I forgot to add this at the end. Right, I'm going to add that to the end of hours because I don't want it at the beginning of minutes if it's not necessary. Okay, so for seconds, total duration dot in seconds modulo 60, and then same thing. I'm going to say if seconds greater than 0, then I'm going to go ahead and add that. So the reason I'm saying if seconds greater than 0 is because I do not want to display it if the user didn't type in any seconds, and then we can return the string at the end over that. Okay, so let's go ahead and redo this, and now we can say, so 1 hour 23, it's going to say 1 hour 23 is expected. Let's add 2 hours 34, that's 3:57, is that correct? That is correct. Then let's add 3:45, I assume that's correct. I am 60, yeah, I guess, I don't know, I'm bad at math. 5:60, yeah, you can do that, by the way, you can add 60. There's nothing in the app preventing you from adding however minutes you want. It would be 60, you could add 90 here or whatever you would like, and that's all fine as far as the app is concerned. Yeah, and there we go. I'm actually happy with this. This is basically what I wanted, right? This is what I wanted, was just something nice which looks decent, it's not overly cluttered, and I can just add some times and gives me a nice total. I have a bit of flexibility because I could add the seconds if I wanted to. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add that colon over there. That's gonna fix that small thing over there. Yeah, so it has the nice flexibility in that if you don't want seconds, so when I add it, I don't track seconds. So this is exactly what I want. But if you did want to track seconds, you could go ahead and do that, and it will track your seconds for you as well, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so that is all fine. That's all I wanted for this app. So the next step is to upload this to Firebase so that I can access it whenever I want without having to run anything. So there's my ChatGPT window. I'm going to go ahead to Firebase, create a project, time calculator, and this is my YouTube time calculator. This is my YouTube account, so it doesn't have anything sensitive on it. It doesn't have any of my work projects. I don't need Google Analytics. And go ahead and create that project and just let it go ahead and run. So I'm going to move this to the side while it is running. In the meantime, I'm going to make this big. I'm going to close this. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to say Flutter build web release. So that release flag is just making it more performant and building it for the web, right? Pretty easy stuff. So I'm going to give that a second to finish. My computer's been quite slow recently. It used to be faster, but yeah, then time kept going. And new updates to macOS came out, and my MacBook, which used to be the latest model, is no longer the latest model. Now it's like a few years old and it's slowing down. And yeah, it's not fun, but it is what it is. Okay, so that's finished. I'm gonna go ahead and do a Firebase init, and I should already be logged into the same account. I did that before. I started recording this video, and the only thing I want is hosting. That's just going to let me upload the files. I'm going to use an existing project. It's going to go ahead and look for my projects, and I only have one on YouTube, on my YouTube account, which is my time calculator, so I'll go ahead and use that. For my public directory, I'm going to use build/web, I believe it is, but I'm not 100% sure, so I might have to modify that afterwards. I'll rewrite it to index.html, but it's not important. I'm not going to do the GitHub. It already exists. Overwrite, no. I don't want to overwrite because I want to upload what I have over here. The good thing about that final one, asking me if I want to overwrite index.html and build.web, means that I did get the correct directory, right? If I had the incorrect directory, then it wouldn't have seen an index.html and it wouldn't be asking me if I want to overwrite it. Then all I can do, nice and easy, I can do Firebase deploy -- only hosting. In fact, I don't even need only hosting because I only have hosting, but I'm going to do it anyway because it is a habit of mine. And why should we break our habits, right? Just going to go ahead and upload that. Almost finished, there we go. And now we can see this is the URL. So I can go ahead and open that, and it's going to go ahead and open this over here. And there we go. The app that we have just built, this beautiful, beautiful app, which we have just built, is now live on the internet and anyone can use. You guys can copy this URL right now, time calculator /673ef.web.app, and you guys can go and use my beautiful app. I will go ahead and leave this URL in the description below, so if you guys have any use for it, you can go ahead and use that. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. In the future, I might go ahead and build the entire app that I was talking about at the beginning. So I do want to make a productivity app, which is going to be way more complicated than this, obviously, but one of my concerns about it is that when recording a video for YouTube, everything takes 2-3 times as long, right? If I could write an app in 15-20 minutes, when I record it for YouTube, it becomes an hour because I'm describing what I'm doing. So that app, which is going to be quite large and which I want to be able to use it. I want it to be out there so other people can use it as well. I don't necessarily want to multiply the production time by like 2 or 3 times. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alright guys, that's going to be it for me. That's going to be it for today. So yeah, see you guys next time. Peace guys.